First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Song of Songs, the second chapter. So continuing, right, the same sort of theme as we were going through in the first chapter, right, as where Solomon is singing in this song of himself being likened onto a woman, and which at times also represents the not just Solomon alone, but also can be symbolic of the Lord's precious ones, which are his elect, and then the lover being the Most High, right, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. So this is really like the relationship, right, between the Lord and Solomon, but also symbolic of the Lord's relationship with his beloved, which are his chosen. So this is Song of Songs, chapter 2, verse 1. I am the rose of Sharon and the lily in the valleys. And Sharon is, it's an actual geographical location in the land of Israel. So it says a plain, the district lying between the mountains of central Palestine and the Mediterranean Sea and near north of Joppa. So here, when you go into also Rose, he's just likening himself onto, at this time you had meadow, saffron, crocus. Let's look at what that looks like. Crocus flower. Right, so something like this. And based on the context, it would seem they grew, or probably grew in mass around that area. So, or they were just like really beautiful, roses in that area. So he's likening himself here to like this beautiful rose that grows in this area of Sharon, or it says here, and the lilies of the valleys. As the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. And here, this this is like from the perspective of the Most High, or the perspective of the lover, back to the woman. Okay, so here it says, as the lilies among thorns. Right, thorns are not desirable. A lily is desirable. So if you liken someone to being as lilies amongst thorns, right, as it says, this is how my love, or my beloved, is among the daughters, among the rest of the people, or the rest of the women. This is spiritually how the Lord sees his love, right, or his elect, which is among the world, right? They're like a lily among the thorns. What's also spiritual here is that the use of the flower, the lily, all right, specifically that one, as is also mentioned throughout a couple more verses in here. And in Second Esdras, I believe it's Second Esdras or First Esdras, it's in the 5th chapter. It talks about the of all the flowers or plants, the Lord chose him one lily. Right, going into his we would say like your favorite kind of flower, right? So you'll see here that Solomon's songs, they're very spiritual because Solomon had great wisdom. All right, and he spoke both in his proverbs and in his songs in allegories as well. That's why we're able to tie in, a lot of these spiritual or symbolic meanings in these songs. As the apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down under his shadow with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. See, so it says here, as the apple tree among the trees of the wood. Let's go here. Let's read this in the NLT. It says here, like the finest apple tree in the orchard is my lover among other young men. Okay, and here this is emphasizing the way, all right, that this woman is looking at her lover, where she basically has eyes for nobody else. So she's likening him on to being this finest tree of all the trees out there, right? Which is likened onto the other men. This is also, symbolically how the elect see the Lord, right? That he is, as the scriptures tell us, there is nobody else, right? There is none other. So the elect only have the spiritual eyes for the Lord, right? For Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And as it says here, I sit in his delightful shade and taste his delicious fruit. So if he was likened onto this apple tree, then the fruits, right, or the things that come of the Lord are likened onto this delicious fruit, right? Now it mentioned here back in the KJV, sitting under his shadow with great delight. And let's get a couple of precepts that line up with that, all right, of symbolically being under the shadow of the Lord, right, under his covering. So the first one here is in the book of Psalms, chapter 57, verse 1, right? To the chief musician, Altachith, Michtam of David, when he fled from Saul in the cave, be merciful unto me, O God, be merciful unto me, for my soul trusteth in thee. Yea, in the shadow of thy wings will I make my refuge, until these calamities be overpassed. So what was David saying here by referring to the shadow of the Lord's wings? That would be his protection. Okay, that's where he would seek. Let's get one more in Psalms 91 and 1. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. See, security of the one who trusts in the Lord. So what is that also likened on to? Trusting, right? Trusting the Lord. So going back to Song of Songs, chapter 2, verse 3, mentioning that I sat down under his shadow with great delight. That is also the, symbolically, that is the position, all right, of the elect, right? The elect are under the shadow or in the shadow of the Almighty, right, with great delight, because that is the protection and the hedge that he has over them. Verse 4, he brought me in to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love, right? And a banner is like a sign, right, or some sign, to put, for lack of a better word here. And the banqueting house, a banqueting house, is going to that word because we know what a banquet is, right? It's like a feast. So it's where you go to like eat and drink. So what would that be likened onto, right? It says here wine, banqueting, okay? So you don't just drink over there, right? But you eat and drink. And so what would be likened spiritually onto being the banqueting house of the Lord? Basically the place of this truth, of this knowledge, right? Because this knowledge is likened onto eating. The scriptures also say, right, all ye that thirst, right, you can come onto the Lord, roughly paraphrasing. And there are, other precepts that go along with that. So that verse 4 and 5, as we're going to read into it here, stay me with flagons. Flagons are cake. All right, when you go into that word flagons, it says here raisin cake used in sacrificial feasts. All right, so it says stay me, all right, or in other words, strengthen me or sustain me with flagons or raisin cakes. Comfort me with apples, for I am sick of love, right, or lovesick, which is desirous to be with you. So what would the cake, right, or the apples or the house of banqueting be likened onto, right? When looking at this spiritually, that would be likened onto the truth, right, or the word, or the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the Heavenly Father, right, which sustains us. Okay, so we're comforted by that, like here in the lyrics, Solomon is writing about being comforted with the apples, right, or being sustained with the raisin cakes, for being sick with love here for the Lord. Verse 6, his left hand is under my head, and his right hand doth embrace me. And typical sort of if you picture one of those movies like The Notebook, right, or one of those kind of romance movies, you'll see the guy approach the girl, right, put his hand like, one hand behind her head, right, one hand on her waist, pulls her in, that kind of thing. So here, as it says, it doth embrace me, which what is that symbolizing? The Lord bringing you close, right? Or drawing you near to him. Remember, this is all, it's symbolic, right? Solomon is not an actual woman, but it's the description of the desire of the Lord, right? That relationship between the Lord and him, which is also likened on to the relationship between the Lord and his elect or his loved ones. So just as a man who has a lover, would embrace her and draw her in, the Lord embraces and draws in his elect, right? His because they're also likened onto a woman, right? They're also likened onto the bride. And the scriptures talk about Yahweh Shai being likened onto the bridegroom. Verse 7, I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hinds of the field, that ye stir not up. When you charge someone, it's like giving them a command, right? That ye stir not up, nor awake my love till he please. Now, let's look at this in the NLT concerning the charging, right? So, in other words, promise me, O women of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and wild deer, not to awaken love until the time is right. So it's part of the lyrics of the song, but when it mentions nor awake my love till he please, in other words, what it's saying here is, if the love here is referring on to the Lord, don't try to force his hand, right? Don't wake him until he's ready. Because when you do that, it's likened onto trying to force the Lord's hand. So if the elect are likened onto the Lord's love, and here in the lyrics, Solomon is saying, don't wake his love, which is the Most High, until he please, until he's ready. Don't try to force his hand to bring about, the things he has said to happen until it's time. Because we know that the things that we would try to speed up, all right, or we would wish to be here, likened onto a lover who is eager and wants to, as it says, awake her love so she can be embellished in it. What we want to awake the Lord to do would be to bring deliverance to us, right? But we have to wait. Okay, real quick, let's go to the book of Second Esdras. Let's type it in here. Stir. Yeah, Second Esdras chapter 4, and I'll start at verse 34 and then jump down. So this is Second Esdras 4 and 34, and he answered me. This was the angel Uriel speaking to Ezra, and basically cautioning him not to be too hasty, because everything is in the power and timing of the Lord. And it doesn't matter what you do, you can't speed up what the Lord has put in his times. And he answered me, saying, do not thou hasten above the most highest, for thy haste, see that, is in vain to be above him, for thou hast much exceeded. Now jumping down to verse 37, by measure hath he measured the times, and by number hath he numbered the times, and he doth not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled. So you can't, force the Lord's hand or try to force him to take action. It's going to happen at the appointed time. Okay, like in that back onto the awaking or arousing of my love until he is ready, until he please. Verse 8, the voice of my beloved, behold, he cometh leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved is like a roe or a young hart, and that roe, I believe that goes into like a gazelle, and a hart is like a deer. Behold, he standeth behind our wall. He looketh forth at the windows. So imagine like those little romance movies, right? You got the man running. He gets to the place where the woman is. He's outside. He's looking through the window. Probably throw a little rock, a pebble at the window, alerting her that he's here. Basically, come outside, right? Showing himself through the lattice, which symbolizes the Lord, because it mentioned skipping, right? Basically coming swiftly, because when you liken it onto a roe or a hart, you're dealing with like speed and swiftness. And this is likened onto the Lord coming swiftly to get us. Because here it's the lover coming to get the his woman, which is also likened unto the Lord coming to get his woman spiritually, which is his elect. Okay, so the scriptures say that the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, right, and he's coming to come and in our case, right, to rescue or to deliver his beloved or his elect. In verse 10, my beloved spake and said unto me, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. See that? For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. So that's like, as it says, my beloved spake and said unto me, rise up, my love, which sounds like almost similar to Matthew 25, right? About the voice of the bridegroom. Okay, he tarried, but you know, when the bridegroom came, it said, hey, it's the voice of the bridegroom, go ye out to meet him. And it's spiritual because Solomon wrote this, right? And then, you know, you have Yahushua, which gave that parable about the bridegroom. But nonetheless, you know, what would that be? Go and meet him. So here, the love is calling out to his woman to say, come on, let's go. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. And the winter would signify like harsh times, especially when you deal in the past. The winter was a very, you know, you wouldn't travel in the winter, right? You'd have to be very cautious. You know, things were harder to do in the wintertime. So it symbolized like a harsh, the harsh times, right? You wouldn't be outside in that time. The rain is over and gone, and rain can also be used in a context like this for like unpleasant weather, right? So you don't want to be outside during this time. So here the love comes, right? It's saying, hey, I'm here now. Let's go, right? The hard times are over. The harsh times are past. Now this is like a new day, right? Verse 12, the flowers appear on the earth. The time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. See, and that's the turtle doves. So this is like the setting of like a deliverance, okay, which is spiritually, right? When you draw that correlation in these verses, that's likened on to how it's going to be for the Lord's elect, right? He's going to come, he's going to gather them, and at that point, that night is going to be past, right? The harsh times are going to be gone, and it's going to be a beautiful new beginning. The fig tree putteth forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grape give a good smell, right? And like basically like the whole creation rejoicing. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. So the time is ready. Come on, let's go. Oh, my dove, that art in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs, let me see thy countenance, let me hear thy voice, for sweet is thy love, and thy countenance is comely. And this is the from the perspective of the woman now, right? Basically calling out to the man, right? Saying, you know, I want to see you, I want to hear you, like you know, I'm eager. Take us the foxes, the little ones that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. And this is just referencing the because when you in the ancient world, when you had a vineyard, you had to be very careful, because if you had like foxes and stuff that could get in there, they would go and spoil your crops, right? They would eat up your crops. So here, right, as part of the lyrics, it's just mentioning here, you know, make sure they're not going up in the vineyard and, as it says, spoiling the vines. Looking at this in the NLT, it's saying here, from the perspective of the young woman in Jerusalem, catch all the foxes, those little foxes, before they ruin the vineyard of love, for the grapevines are blossoming, right? So it's like they worded it as though you have the lover that comes, he's calling out to the woman, hey, it's time, let's go. And then the woman is ready to go. And so those that are, you know, like the young women are like, make sure everything is good and there's nothing hindering or nothing in the way, right, to ruin this vineyard of love, or this grapevine of love that's blossoming. Basically making sure everything goes according to plan. Verse 16, my beloved is mine, and I am his. He feedeth among the lilies, And when you go to that, when you look at that in the NLT, the feeding, it says he browses among the lilies. All right, so here, just speaking from the perspective of the woman, right, being wholly given on to the man, and the man being wholly given on to her, right, which is, once again, symbolic of the union, right, of being one with the Lord. Verse 17, until the day break and the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, be thou like a roe or a young hart upon the mountains of Bether. And turn here means turn back to me, right? So basically, in other words, return to me swiftly. When it likens here to, it says, be like a roe, right? A gazelle or a deer upon the mountains. So return to me swiftly and quickly, like a young hart, right? Or gazelle running upon the open mountains, which is the desire for the Lord to come onto us, right? And to come and ultimately deliver us from this place when you look at it from that sense. But that brings us to the end of the book of Song of Songs, the 2nd chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.